So there's good news and there's bad news.
Oh, there's bad news? There's never bad news.
The good news is that the city is getting ready to introduce the first of its kind, a Baltimore digital plan. The bad news is that Baltimore is introducing its first Baltimore digital plan. And it really is important that we look at how do we improve technology for the citizens of Baltimore. And we need to improve it across all of our entities. It is a way to not only improve technology, but it'll also be a way to reduce redundancy and cost and improve the public experience as it relates to city government. This plan is a 5-year vision that sets out our priorities for changing the IT culture, improving customer service, securing critical IT operations and infrastructure, and building partnerships, and also increasing community engagement around technology. This is not the city's plan, but it is also the community's IT plan. So what we're doing is we're allowing the public, because we think it's important, to see the plan. It will be online, and to provide us with feedback by March the 16th. The website is technology.baltimorecity.gov. Improvement of our IT is one of the best ways to move Baltimore forward. And so when we brought on Frank Johnson as the CIO, we've changed the name of the entity to the Office of Information Technology, the Baltimore City Office of Information Technology. We think that fits more in the platform of improving technology. So I'm going to have Mr. Johnson share the plan with you, and he will answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good morning, everyone. We're very, very excited to present to the community the city's first ever IT strategic plan. This is the cover. It is, as the mayor pointed out, intentionally marked draft for public comment because this is not just Baltimore City government's IT strategic plan. It's the communities, the universities, the businesses that operate here, the foundations, the incubators, all of them, because it's going to require the community's participation in order to help see it through. Now, when you dive into the plan, just real quickly, first and foremost, you'll see a letter from the mayor outlining the context and vision for the plan. We're not going to do tech for tech's sake. We're going to be very outcome focused, and the priorities that matter are the mayor's 5 pillars: public safety, education, economic development, quality of life, transparency, and accountability. That's what matters. Every IT priority and investment that we make will be made through that filter and through that lens. Second, you'll see a deep and heavy focus on people and process. A tech-focused human capital program. As we said a couple of weeks ago when Code in the Schools was here, we're in an unprecedented tech talent shortage market. We absolutely are going to be unbelievably focused on growing the organization, the people, and the capability in order to deliver on the strategy. And then third, you'll see a list of what you would normally see, a series of tech priorities that we'll start to work through, again, once we have the team in place. So that's it. Be available for public comment for another couple of weeks. We'll dust it up one more time. We'll mark it final, Rev 1.0, and the hard work starts now.
Any questions for Frank?
You're talking about a tech talent shortage. Amazon recently, did not take the bid for Baltimore City. Is this kind of along the lines of needing more tech talent in order to bolster the city for other tech industries to come in and want to invest here in Baltimore?
Well, let me just say, I don't think that we got a lot of reasons. We didn't get any real reasons around why we weren't chosen by Amazon. In fact, what they taught it was our technology advancements and our schools who are teaching more technology. We now have code in the schools. So that's not what this is about. So Frank, maybe you might want to be a little bit more explicit.
Yes.
In terms of what we're doing here.
When you study other municipalities that have a growing, thriving tech industry, they're very, very tightly coupled to tech talent availability. And we alluded to it when Gretchen LeGrand and Code in the Schools were here. We're going to be very, very, very intentional about growing our own pipeline of tech talent here in the city, not just for city government's benefit, but for the communities and maybe future tech employers. And there's like 60 to 70,000 cyber jobs open alone between Baltimore and Washington. I mean, we have to be very, very intentional about building our own tech talent pipeline. And we're going to do, part of that's going to be engaging our own city's youth and give them an opportunity to participate in a 40 years of job opportunity in a very exciting career field in technology. And a lot of those ideas and thoughts are outlined in the first couple of chapters of the plan.
It looked like in the plan that you're envisaging by, I guess, the end of this 5 years, doubling what the city spends on IT, and I think doubling the workforce as well. Is that right? Like, is the city committing to funding that ramp up, or is that still an open question?
Madam Mayor.
I don't think we're trying to double the workforce. I think that what you'll find with technology, it actually decreases the workforce in some areas, but what it does is it creates talent that can go beyond the capacity of what exists here in the city. But what we have are a lot of technology firms who are looking for more employees. And so when we expand technology into our schools, when we expand technology in our community colleges, what we're doing is feeding the workforce. This is a growing workforce. You know, yesterday, I don't know if you had a chance to go over to the convention center where we had the FAA here in Baltimore talking about the growing drone industry, where over 100,000 jobs are going to be available just in the surrounding areas of Maryland. And what are we doing to meet those needs? I mean, so some of the things we're doing, for example, is we've started drone camps right here in our own rec centers. And so for 10 weeks at about 4 different sites in Baltimore, we're teaching that technology because that is, again, going to be another field of technology that is going to be available. What we find here by doing this is that we're going to be reducing costs. For example, when we look at the hiring in the police department, and the curbing of overtime, we know that there is a technology system that can address those needs. And so all of those kinds of things eventually will help us to curb costs of city government, not add to it.
The plan does say, I mean, taking from, I think, baseline like 68 million to 130 something. Presumably there's, maybe you will save costs overall, but there must be some upfront costs, like, because when the budget is released, are we going to see that first round of increases?
Well, it's like capital costs. Whenever you're doing something, there's an initial capital cost to implement the system. But what we're looking at is the long-range impact of what investing that capital will do ultimately for your community and for our government. It's like if you have empty lots and you build houses on them, there's an initial cost for building that house. But at the same time, what it ultimately yields for the city is additional tax dollars. So there are going to be additional capital costs to the implementation. But also, if you think about moving towards a 5G society, I mean, at some point we have to do this. And when you think about making sure that your children, your school system has access to the latest technology, there's an upfront cost to doing that. But again, the question becomes, are you willing to make the advancement so that you can advance the opportunities for the folks in your city and reduce the cost of city government?
So is the money in the increased bond offering, is that what's going to be used to pay for a lot of this?
Not entirely, absolutely not. We have money in the increase to affordable housing, some other capital needs, focusing in on some of our redevelopment needs of the city. A lot will be going into housing, economic development, expansion of businesses, and so forth.
I see a lot of hiring in the plan. I skimmed it just in the time before we came in here. Do you know any initial count of how many people you might be looking to hire, or is that kind of a ways away?
That's a little ways away.
I guess I read the plan when it was released the other week, and it was found it quite hard to understand. It's very technical. But do you have concrete examples of how you expect people's experience with dealing with the city government will change by the end of this compared to what it's at now? I think that would be what would make this sort of intelligent.
Well, I think part of it, for example, is when you're applying for certain jobs, instead of just you'll be able to access most of that information online. If you're looking for places to go and you want to be more specific about it, I think this kind of technology will help you do that. The other thing is, when you think about city government, there are a lot of platforms that we're operating on, a lot of licenses that we're using. The consolidation of some of those licenses into a single platform, one, will reduce costs and allow us to communicate better. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you,
all very
Frank.
much. Thank you.
I'll take a few more questions.
Madam Mayor, the Board of Estimates approved the city spending for helping immigrants through their immigration cases today. With the president suing California over some of their immigration policies, isn't the city risking itself in terms of opening itself up to criticism from the federal government if it's shown to be not, or shown to be supporting people who could possibly be breaking federal immigration law?
Well, I don't know that they're breaking federal immigration law. You know that this was a part of this is a grant from the Vera Institute. And would you like to share some information on it?
I think part of the goal is to provide these individuals access to due process, a fair chance in front of the judge with an attorney to tell their story and for the judge to decide whether they deserve to be deported or not.
Sorry, can you tell us your name, Sarah?
Sure. Catalina Rodriguez Lima.
Who heads our immigration office?
Can you spell your name?
Sure. C-A-T as Tom, A-L-I-N-A, Rodriguez, R-O-D-R-I-G-U-E-Z, Lima, L-I-M-A.
So Madam Mayor, why shouldn't we look at this as the city deciding, okay, we're going to follow this federal law, we're going to enforce this federal law, but when it comes to immigration, when people are possibly violating it, we're going to help defend them in court?
First of all, I think that when we go to court, it's innocent until proven otherwise. And so we have individuals in our city who cannot afford an attorney before they go to the courts to be decided upon. So we're not making a decision as to their status. We're making the decision to be supportive of individuals who live in our city who cannot afford legal assistance. And so these are grants that have been given, and we support those grants, and we hope that everyone gets due process.
But taxpayers are supporting, are matching the grants by $100,000.
Yes.
So why should taxpayers be paying for this legal defense?
Well, again, innocent until proven otherwise. And at the same time, I think that we provide public defenders for individuals in our communities. We have a public defender's office, and that is to provide legal services for individuals in our communities who can't afford to do so. This is specifically for this particular purpose.
And if I may, Madam Mayor, immigration is a civil matter. It's not a criminal matter. And as such, this is an administrative process. Going in front of an immigration judge is an administrative process where people will have an opportunity with an attorney with legal expertise to make their case.
And as part of that administrative process, you're not, like in the criminal process, you have a right to representation, but in an administrative process, you don't. So why is the city deciding to fund attorneys for this administrative process?
Because we believe that, we said we're a safe city. We believe that people deserve defense, and some folks need assistance, and they're members of our community, and we want to make sure that they're fairly treated.
Mayor, have you had a chance to look at legislation that's going to be part of the council Monday about banning the oil facilities in the city that the council's voting on Monday?
Is that the crude oil bill
Yeah,
you're talking about?
What's your position on that? Will you sign that bill?
I'm still reviewing the bill. It's still in front of me.
What do you think? Any thoughts on it?
No thoughts as of yet.
Madam Mayor, in Annapolis yesterday and coming up next Tuesday, the Senate and the House are both hearing bills, or a bill cross-filed on auditing the police department every 6 years. I spoke with Delegate McCray yesterday, and he's saying that most of the city is supportive of it, city council is supportive of it to hold the police department accountable. What's your take on that?
Oh, I absolutely think we should hold the police department accountable.
Do you think every 6 years is a reasonable amount of time between audits? would you like to see more or less?
Well, we want the police department to be as transparent as possible. I think under the consent decree, it is requiring more transparency. And after what the city has just gone through, I think as transparent as we can make our police department, we ought to be about the business of doing that.
Madam
When it comes
Mayor,
to the March for Your Lives, you promised to bring children from Baltimore down to DC. How are you planning on paying for that?
So let me just say that we were outreached by the national movement on this, so we'll be getting support and donations and so forth to help us to be able to do this. The reason we were reached out to, because we're Baltimore, we're close to Washington D.C., and there needs to be more diversity there at the march. So we were specifically outreached from the national organizers.
Who's the national group?
What's that, George? I believe March for Our Lives is the name of the national organization, but it's being funded by many members of Hollywood and some finance people.
So the city's investment in it is going to be the city's investment or the city's investment with some private?
As far as we know, we're trying to get as much private dollars as we can. Our effort is around organizing them and getting them there and providing the various locations.
People have the opinion that these students need to be in school, especially with all of the days that they've had off with the cold, the heat issues, and now the crazy storm that we had last week. What do you have to say to them?
Well, let me just say, children in fear. And I'll share with you another story, not just about children in fear. A young woman contacted me about, well, not actually me, it was on Facebook, and I don't know if many of you saw her or not, screaming and hollering about the killing of her child in 2015 in the streets of Baltimore. And the pain and suffering that she's been going through now for years has been something very difficult to overcome. And so I reached out to her because I wanted to know how we could help. And so what I did was she came here, and I had a conversation with Dr. Perman at the University of Maryland. I don't think we understand the pain and suffering of people who experience violence, nor do we understand the pain that children and others are impacted by. And even when we witness these violent acts in rural America, we don't realize that in our own city that there are children who are hurting and concerned. What they spoke of was fear. And we ought to be trying to figure out how do we deal with that fear, and more importantly, address it psychologically, emotionally. I think we need our children in school, but I also think we need to support our children and their voices.
Do you feel like the kind of gun crime that we see mostly in Baltimore, it's not people who can legally buy guns who are, carrying out these kind of mass killings? Do you feel like that gets lost in the national debate around this?
Oh, absolutely. When I think about, as you well know, the numbers here in Baltimore, 89% of the individuals who come in contact with the criminal justice system or who are killing on our streets have been in contact with the criminal justice system 9 to 11 times. But that still begs the question, how do people get illegal guns? What is the process by which they get them? But more importantly, what penalties should they pay for killing people in the streets of our city? And so, while our conversation may be lost in this national debate, the pain and suffering that our children are experiencing is something that we still need to address. And, they don't oftentimes, we don't legislate on assault weapons, but they don't differentiate between that. They think about watching television and seeing 17 young people who look like them being killed. And then you have legislation in Annapolis saying, here's additional dollars to make sure that your schools and so forth are safe. So this is real fear and real concern. And so rather than, I think it's important to hear their voices. And so Saturday, it's not a weekday when they're going to Washington, D.C. It's on a Saturday. And we want to make sure that if they want to really be speaking out on the particular issues that you hear being debated on the national level, that they have the opportunity to go there.
And just to try and close the loop, you said you wanted to see more diversity at the march in DC.
No, that was how I was
Oh, that's what
contacted.
they-
No, not me. That's what when they reached out to us, because we're Baltimore, that we were close to Washington DC, they said we would like to see more diversity at the march.
Madam
Okay.
Mayor, I mean, if the city does have to contribute funds to the buses to DC, why is that money better spent doing that rather than putting it towards rec centers or
Well,
putting it towards the police?
Let me just say, I think we'll cross that bridge if we get to it. Secondly, I think you should look at what we're doing with our rec centers, and we'll have some more news about that a little bit later in terms of how we're expanding rec centers. We just opened our rec centers on Friday nights till 11 p.m., Saturdays till midnight. You got a drone camp going on now. You've got all kinds of programs that we're investing in our young people to make sure that not only are they having recreational opportunities, but they're having STEAM opportunities as well. Thank you all.